Because there's a topic that it bothers me. Dana White, president of the UFC, has called you numerous times the crazy Russian. I know you're not the crazy Russian. I've known you a long time. You're a gentleman. You're a great guy. But when you hear Dana White say Vadim Finkelstein is a crazy Russian, what do you think?
Dana White is een beetje arrogant man. Hij is gewoon, bij hem is allemaal crazy, allemaal stupid, allemaal dit. Dus ik denk dat is his style, weet je.
Vadim was saying, that Dana White has a tendency towards arrogance, and everything that's not Dana White is either crazy or stupid, and it just doesn't work that way.
Now Dana White, go ahead.
Weet je, ik heb geen crazy, ik wil graag werken met UFC, maar UFC, weet je, die zit een beetje met grote taart. In bank dat is iemand kleine stukje
van neemt. Vadim is saying that all this stuff about us not wanting to work with UFC is just utterly and completely untrue. We've always been completely open to basically work with anybody, including the UFC. Because our goal has always been to put the greatest fighters against each other, and if the greatest fighter is part of UFC, fine. Let's put him up against our best guy and see what happens. Vadim saying that the UFC is being quite protective of what they have, and they're very scared to give a little bit away of that pie they have in front of them. But we're not there to take the pie. We just want to share the pie.
Right, because you have offered. To have, if they want, Dana's been quoted saying lately, if Fedor says he's the best, then he needs to fight the best. And you have offered to co-promote a show in which, if they want Fedor, they can have Fedor for a fight, right?
Of course. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, no problem. Dana says that he has never met Fedor because Fedor doesn't manage his own career, and that he's kind of perpetuating the idea that you are not allowing him to meet Fedor. So is there a problem with Dana White and you and Fedor meeting? Is that a problem?
Zou jij, of jij een probleem ziet om een ontmoeting te hebben met Dana en met Fedor? Want Dana heeft gezegd dat hij Fedor nog nooit ontmoet. En het is allemaal heel moeilijk om contact te krijgen met die mensen. Dus jij kan een beetje uitnodiging doen.
Is dat niet waar? Hij is wel niet uitgenodigd met Fedor. Ja? Maar met mij, ik heb veel keer gezien Dana. Ik ben zelf geweest in Las Vegas bij hem office. En ik wil graag werken, maar ik wil niet werk voor UFC, ik wil werk voor MMA World, voor alles.
Vadim is saying that this is not entirely the case. I mean, Vadim has met Dana on several occasions. I mean, Vadim has even traveled specifically to Las Vegas to meet with Dana in his office, where they had a number of conversations. And the invitation is right there. If Dana wants to sit down at the table or wherever, he can come to St. Petersburg, and he's very welcome here. He can meet up with Vadim. He can meet up with Fedor. Not a problem at all. The only thing that Vadim is saying, if Fedor would end up fighting a UFC fighter, it's not going to be with Fedor under the UFC. It's going to be with Fedor as part of M1. But we'll make any fight happen that's opportune at that point in time.
Vadim, since mixed martial arts, it does mean a lot to you personally. I know this myself. What's your general view on mixed martial arts worldwide?
Hoe zeggen wat ik gezegd, ja? Ik vind Dana White, UFC, gedaan heel veel voor MMA World, voor groeien MMA. Wij ook zelf beginnen, hij begint, ik denk ook
rond dezelfde tijd.
Dezelfde tijd. En hij is veel gedaan voor MMA. Maar nu, hij is grote reigning voor MMA. Omdat hij wil alleen geen company groeien. Ja. Hij geeft geen kans voor andere country, voor andere vechters. En dat is het probleem. Hij is nu grote reigning. Wat wij doen nu, dat is gewoon maken grote world competition met M1 Challenge. Dat is beste vechters van alle countries. In iedere country is ook enkele competition. Je komen beste vechters alleen vechten in M1 Challenge. En volgende jaar we hebben 16 countries. En misschien over 3-4 jaar we krijgen 30, 40, 50 countries. Dat wij krijgen echt grote
champions. Wereldwijd. What Vadim is saying is that he has the utmost respect for the UFC and for Dana White because of everything they've done for the sport and the promotion of MMA in general. And and they started around the same time as M1, and the UFC has paved the road for the growth of the sport. and a tremendous amount of promotion. So they are very much to be commended for that. But now comes a time where the UFC, the strategy of the UFC is actually putting a brake on the expansion and the further promotion of MMA worldwide. Whereas M1 with the 2008 launch of the M1 Challenge is now truly growing into a global sport. In 2008 we're having 10 teams competing against each other, and they're national teams, so they're from all over the place. They're from Korea, they're from Japan, they're from Spain, we have a Dutch team, we have a Finnish team, and you name it. And for 2009 our program is already put together. We're going to have 16 teams competing against each other, and we're going to make it grow every year. And so we'll have 16 or 14 countries competing next year, and we'll grow it again in 2010 and make it truly a worldwide sport.
I think that what Vadim is also saying is that we're willing to work with anybody.
Absolutely.
Especially the UFC, and I understand what he means by the break. You can't control something, you have to let it grow. You have to let your baby grow at some point. The UFC has reached a point to where if mixed martial arts
they've done a great job.
They've done a great job.
Excellent, wonderful, and again to be commended. But now we got to share a little bit. The marketplace is big enough for a number of players.
You can't be greedy. You have to be willing to share.
You have to be willing to share, because some of the fighters are at the UFC, some of the fighters are elsewhere, and we want to bring them together.
Right. And personally, now that Randy Couture is out of the picture, I saw the Randy Brock Lesnar fight. Personally, I don't think Brock Lesnar would last the first round against Fedor, and I would love to see, because they're building Brock Lesnar as the next. The next level of mixed martial arts, is the next big superstar. Fedor and Brock Lesnar are the same age. What do you think about Brock Lesnar and Fedor fighting?
Wij willen graag met Brock Lesnar morgen.
Fedor will fight Brock Lesnar tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
There's open invitation, anytime, anywhere.
And so
Het probleem is niet in zitten in
it's Brock Lesnar's management is the problem, right? Technically.
Dana White zeggen altijd Fedor coming by UFC. Waarom Fedor moet coming by UFC? Fedor is nummer 1 vechter. Hij moet vechten met kampioen van UFC, van Dream, van verschillende organisaties.
Vadim is saying that Fedor coming to UFC is not the issue. The issue is that Fedor is willing to fight, and any of our fighters are willing to fight anybody else from any other organization. Being UFC, being Pride, being Strikeforce, being whoever, and we're open to that.
Dana White needs, I've always said this about Dana, and it drives me crazy, Dana White needs to let the fighters fight. That's what they're fighters. Let them fight. This isn't WWE where you make up your own rankings and you fight within your own organization. This is real fighting. As in boxing, let the fighters fight. This man is not a crazy Russian. He's a gentleman, and he always keeps his composure when he's called a crazy Russian. And I take it personal because I know him, and I consider him a friend, and it drives me crazy when I hear him say these things. Here's what I think we should do. Why don't we invite Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta to the Affliction fight January 24th, give them some ringside tickets. We can have a meeting with Fedor, Vadim, everybody will invite the press, the MMA media can come, any press. So would you like to invite Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta January 24th to the Affliction fight?
Zeggen, juist. Als wij werken alle samen, dat kan alleen groeien naar verhaal. Wij niet eten gymtart. Wij zeker weten, hij is niet verloren als wij werken allemaal samen.
What Vadim is saying is very important, and Vadim is saying we're not going to eat the UFC pie, but we want to share. And in the synergy, the power lies in the synergy of bringing these together. Exactly as you say, let the fighters fight, independent of the organization. So the invitation stands. They're welcome at any point in time, and definitely at the January 24th event. And we'll talk about it, discuss it, and we're open to any kind of deal made.
So here's the challenge to Dana White, January 24th. Fedor, Avlovsky.
Yeah, welcome to the M1 Global and Affliction fight.
Come meet Vadim again, sit down with Vadim, meet Fedor for the first time. Let's make some fights happen. That's the challenge of Dana White from Vadim.
Yes.